Hello, in this special series of audio videos, I will detail the contents of what I had written for each of the topics that I had addressed to the Prime Minister of Australia, in concern for the new proposals and current consideration of proposals that would in effect be added more pressures, such as any additional taxes and policies that would for the lower income and poor cause more of a struggle for those less well off, who may be either that close to slipping under the poverty line or are already under the poverty line. I will split these videos up since my letters, or call them documents, as the later documents mounted to a fair few pages, since I had addressed many assorted topics of concern. And since in order to publish these videos onto YouTube, there is a limit to how long videos can be to be uploaded. Please note that I had edited where any identifiable info may have been. And now that's all for the introduction. So let's begin with part 1 of the first letter I had written and posted to the Prime Minister of Australia. Putting more pressure to the low-income earner and the poor. To the Honourable Julia Gillard, I'm a concerned citizen in relation to the welfare of not just me, but of the low-income earners and the poor. There are many issues that I am concerned about, and I now wonder, where is Australia heading? With all these constant and now additional pressures, from taxes to the dollar value, affecting what is affordable. I will try to break up the issues into several sections. Carbon tax implementation and the effects for the low earning brackets of Australians. First, I know you want, and we all want, to move into a cleaner world as soon as possible, but it cannot just be put into practice all like this up front until some alternative systems had been established. The push on solar power systems with rebates on those systems will benefit and help the people that own their own house. But for people that are living in a unit, flat, who cannot even afford a house, have no way to contributing to the same degree, and so we cannot afford to be penalised because we cannot install a system ourselves, being that it's the property owner's responsibility for any alterations to a rental property. I don't watch TV myself, partly as I have an older TV, and I do not have an actual place I can have it set up. However, what I have heard about this carbon tax advert and comments from the actor that performed and supports it, the reaction is of no concern to anyone. What is not considered is the effects to the lower income earners. After all, the rich and wealthy only see the tax as loose change, and so means not much to them. Yet for the people that are struggling to cope with all the other bills and taxes, when they don't earn as much, it really makes it hard to live. Making this possibly a fixed amount for all to pay is not going to help, even if it was a tax of $40. That's possibly food that I would have to cut down further. Usually I hear when there is any mention of help, it's normally geared towards households and families, but nothing is mentioned about single people or separated ex-partners that have no relationship anymore. If something like this is to be implemented, wouldn't it better to help to ease the pressure by looking at implementing the systems that could help to replace our current systems, rather than essentially pulling the plug in one fell swoop? After all, after having so many interest rate rises, the rise of the price of food, and now the extra taxes, I know you want to implement the strategy of a green change straight away, but please think of the people who will struggle if it's implemented in this way. Some alternative that could be considered could relate to wind farms located out on a paddock. Solar farms, for example, could be established. not nuclear. Have these systems in place and generating, then shift people over onto those systems. Gradually shut down the old ones. Less pressure on the low-income earner. Plus, it's almost as and it is causing Australia to go backwards in progress. Many small businesses may also find it hard to cope with an increased tax on their power usage to help move Australia forward. Please, I ask you to think about it and think of ways to help the people that are less well off to cope better during this change and onwards. Interest rate rises that make it hard for the lower earning workers and a right to earn a place to live. I know this more or less involves the Royal Bank of Australia, but they, with their trigger-happy fingers, it seems, from each boardroom meeting, and their unwillingness to really sit for too long, is also causing a lot of pressure to the less well-off. It's been said that this is caused, as they say, from the spending habits of too many, which relates to the rich that can afford to spend. Most people are being very cautious with how and when they spend their money, so it's the rich that are causing this, and in that respect, as the RBA blames as the main reason. Here is something to demonstrate where this reason would be the most unfair. Would be if, say, we had over 50 big tycoons that made as much as Bill Gates. I'm using him as an example, though his character seems better than this. However, if we had a large amount of tycoons that earned as much as that, and who spent on billions of dollars on themselves with huge mansions, boats, and whatever else that they would wish to spend big amounts on, this then would cause the RBA to lift interest rates more, hurting the lower income and the poor in the process, which would be the most unfair toppling of the balance between the rich and the poor, meaning the rich still live better and the poor get poorer. Here's something giving an incentive to help fellow Australians. If these rich really care about Australia, what about giving incentives to help invest in ways to improve Australia for everyone, rather than spending on expensive boats that may only be used 2 times a year, for example? I know, though, there will be ones that will be that closed-minded and think that even a poor person could pull out a $100 note from their back pocket, which is a pity. There was once an old dream, the dream of owning your own house. That dream, to many, is dead and buried. Australia has now been regarded as one of the most expensive for residential to live, and is why many property investors have turned towards the USA and UK to snap up what are bargains. I once saw in the Australian Financial Review, a paper I never really buy, but it featured an article which compared the value of a $1 million home compared between the UK, Australia and USA. The examples shown were all immaculate, fully furnished and spacious mansions, but when it came to over here, in particularly Sydney, for $1 million, you would not get much, and it would be something that needed a lot of work, that was tiny, with a concrete yard, etc. That's a laugh, unfortunately.